Hey everybody, it's Strict9 with Strict9 GP, and welcome to another episode of my Out of the Park Baseball 19 playthrough with the Phillies. This is episode 23. We're in the offseason now. Free agency just started, the 2033 offseason, so getting ready for that 2034 season, which will be, I think, my 18th year in this playthrough. But last episode I left it at the trading deadline, and I went ahead and simmed through the rest of the season because we cannot turn it around, and I just thought it wasn't really worth. Uh, there wasn't any milestones to look for or anything like that. We didn't even come close to the playoffs, so I just went ahead and finished out the season. And you see where we finished, 69 and 93. I've been doing this playthrough now since the 2017 season. This one I think I started this with version 18 of Out of the Park Baseball. So I started right when the Phillies in real life were starting their rebuild process. And this is the second worst record I've had. I think the worst season I was 68 and 94. So this is second. So a big step back after about a 5 or 6 year run there where I was making the playoffs pretty consistently, winning consistently. So just a very disappointing season. And primarily it was offense tank because the offense has been carrying the team to a big extent the last few years, but they really just stunk it up. If you look, these are just the stats rankings, some of the major stats. We were double digits in every category, pitching and defense and offense, except stolen bases. We were first in stolen bases in the league, which is, pretty good accomplishment, but not enough, of course, to have a winning season. Definitely not enough to make the playoffs. And we've got some money to play around with in the offseason, which is good, but having looked at it already, it's going to be slim pickings in pitching, and there might be a couple of offensive players I'll take a look at, but we'll look at free agency this episode, and I'll probably go through like I usually do. I hope you guys find that entertaining. If you've watched the whole series, then I would hope that you're kind of interested in seeing how some of the teams did and the individual players. So I like going over the year-end awards and looking at the World Series winners and playoff teams. But I was able to get another 1 year contract extension from my owner, so that's good. And for the most part, going into next year, his goals are pretty fair. We want to play close to 500 ball. He wants me to upgrade at left field, but I think Kevin Cox, who had 1 month where he was rookie of the month, I still think there's some upside to this guy, so I think I'm going to keep him in left field. But improved team defensive efficiency, that should be something I can accomplish. But he wanted me to re-sign Juan Ochoa, which I'm not going to do. Juan Ochoa, he's a 2-star overall. He's got good ratings for the most part against righties, decent contact, great power. But I think at this point, he would at best be a platoon situation or a reserve outfielder, and I think I really need to give some of these young guys a chance if I'm going to develop a team. And one of the things I did kind of highlight the last episode, I like in the playthroughs that I like it when some of the players I either develop or that played with me a long time reach certain milestones, and I was hoping he would get to 300 home runs, but like the rest of the team, he just completely tanked in the last couple months of the season. He did not even hit a home run in September or October. Probably the worst home run streak I've ever seen from Ochoa. So he finished his career with 200, or he finished through last year with 296 home runs. I figured that's going to be his Phillies career. I don't necessarily think I'll see him play with us again. So that was good enough to finish third all-time on the Phillies. He did reach 1,000 hits milestone, but I was hoping that he would get past 300 for us, but wasn't going to happen. So let's go ahead and look at the history. First off, the playoff history. Pretty interesting year in some ways. Houston won the World Series over Atlanta. But the Red Sox made it pretty far, and I think an episode or two back I showed you how bad the Red Sox have been in this playthrough. Surprisingly bad. Like, their career has been just virtually nothing since, I guess, that 2021 is the last time that they have made the playoffs before this year, and a lot of losing records, a lot of times where they were fifth in the American League East, had just a terrible run, but they finally made the playoffs last year and made it to the championship, so a good thing for them. And then Atlanta, they finished, see if I look at the history here, Atlanta finally made it to the World Series. No, I'm sorry. That was their second year in a row. But they lost to Houston. But Atlanta looks like they're on the upswing. They're going to be a tough team for us to beat now in the National League East. Looking at the end of the year awards, I'll have to go back quite a bit here to get there. Let's see. So, Gold Gloves, your typical, some pretty big names here for this playthrough. Bobby McKay, who's been a star in the league for a while. Brandon Kinsler, of course, who's been a big star in the league. In the National League, we had no one on that list. Again, Pittsburgh had a few when you count their pitcher, so they've got a pretty good team now. But Atlanta had a third baseman, Wally Kuhn. And then for relievers of the year, it went to Jeremy Finneman in Houston, had a great year, 44 saves. And then the National League reliever of the year went to Mike Steele. And Bobby Austin, who's our closer, who won it last year, he had a very big, a poor year too. I don't even think he got to 30 saves. Just overall, we stunk it up. American League, same guys showing up again here. McCurry was a Platinum Stick Award winner at left field. For the National League Platinum Stick Award winners, once again, we had no one show up. A lot of new young guys are showing up here. Juan Molinar, he's just 25 years old, shortstop. He had 57 home runs, led the league from Miami. Pittsburgh, this guy from Pittsburgh is just 21 years old. I think he might have a chance, if he stays healthy, to be one of the best players I've seen in this playthrough so far. He's 4.5 from my scout, 5 overall potential. But the first 2 seasons he's had in this league have been incredible. 51 home runs, 152 RBIs this year, 310 average, 6.6 wins above replacement. His first 2 years, he's hit 87 home runs, driven in, 264 RBIs. Monster start to a guy's career when he's just 21. Rookie of the year went to Juan Hera, who looks like he was a international free agent. He had a pretty solid year in the American League. And then the National League, again, we had no one show up. Chris Lewis, a first baseman in Atlanta, he looks like he's going to be a pretty big star in this league as well if you look at his contact and home runs. So they've got a good young mix there going, so they could be dominant for several years now. And then the Cy Young went to Juan Lozcano in the American League with Houston. And then in the National League, we did have some positives here. Zach Cantelmi, who finished with just 12 wins but 2.73 ERA. He picked up some votes, but it went to Ian Plyler once again. This is his 6th Cy Young Award in this playthrough. He's having a hard time getting wins, but you look at his overall statistics now. He's at 2,700 strikeouts. He's led the league in strikeouts the last 9 seasons. Had a few where he was well over 300. He's only led the league in wins once, but he's led the league in ERA 4 times. He's led the league in pitcher wins above replacement for the last 8 seasons. This guy's first ballot Hall of Fame, I would think, even with those numbers. I think when you look at that kind of a run, it's hard to deny. And he's still, his ratings are still good. He's an Iron Man in terms of injury proneness. So if this guy stays out his contract, which is through 2035, and maybe picks up a few more years with another team, he might get close to 200 wins or above. He's probably going to he might get close to 4,000 strikeouts. So just again, he's the best pitcher I've seen in this playthrough, bar none, and one of the best overall players I've seen. And then for the Cy Young, it went to Chris Woodley, or MVP, sorry. It went to Chris Woodley, the first baseman at Tampa Bay, who won the Triple Crown, 58 home runs, 157 RBIs, 347 average. This is the guy that Tampa Bay let Justin Bellinger go for, and that was probably the right move for them. He's been very solid so far in his career. And then it went to Juan Molinar from Miami in the National League. So his first MVP, solid year for him. He's just 25. And once again, some positives. Wasn't much, but Zach Cantelme did pick up some votes for us. So that's pretty much the major awards. I wanted to go through arbitration, and there were some good and bad things there. And mainly it was the pitching. Josh Yoakum, who I had traded Sean Barge, my starting second baseman, for, he had an off year, but because of the career that he's had, he got a big payday in arbitration, $14.2 million. No way is he worth it. He'd have to have a big comeback next year. My scout has already downgraded him to 2.5, and he's 2.5 from OSA. So I wasn't too happy with that. I gambled. I hoped that I could get lower than what he was expecting. I offered $12 million, and didn't turn out in my favor. Danny Ood received 4.6, which is good because he had demanded more. He's pretty good still, 3-star. He's a good mid-rotation starter. I'm okay with that salary. But Cantelme, who's probably been my most consistent starter the last couple of seasons, I still don't think he's much above a mid or low mid-rotation starter, but based on the year he had, he got a pretty big signing there too, $12.5 million, and he's going to be a free agent, I believe, after next season. So at 31 years old, I'll probably have to let him go because I imagine he's going to want a lot. And I kept McSparron, which I don't think that was a great choice, but I'm just so afraid with the way pitching is in this league, in the playthrough. I'm afraid to let him go. But he's downgraded to 2.5 from my scout and OSA. Even though he's got good individual ratings, he just hasn't had a consistent run for me anyway. Last year was very bad for him, 7-17, not a good year, 152 WHIP. So he's going to have to turn it around next year for me to be happy with that contract. But even with the arbitration, I still do have, what is that, $47 million available, and I've got a little bit of room to play with in free agency, and that's what we're going to take a look at now. So in the past few seasons, probably every season I've done this playthrough, I've always looked at pitching first, and having looked at it kind of already before we got a couple guys. So that this would save us $27 million next year, but not to get off track. But in looking already at what's available, it's the same deal. If I look at starting pitchers, the best one out there is a 3.5 star, and he's wanting $30+ million a year. I just can't see putting that kind of money in him. And at 32 years, if I offered him he's wanting a long-term contract, I just think I would be really taking a big gamble giving him that contract. And then after that, that's 3.5 star. I got 1 3-star, and that's it. And the 3-star is wanting $16 million. And I have some questions about his control. He does have 4 solid pitchers, good stamina. He's had some decent years, but you can see he's not had a wins above replacement. Just in looking through the last 7 years here, he hasn't gotten above 3 in wins above replacement. And for his career, he's at 4.35 ERA, 76 wins, 11.8 wins above replacement for his career. And injury history, let me see what that would look like, because looks like he missed almost the whole season in 2032. And my scout says he's a valuable second starter, the ace on some teams. I don't. If this were closer to $10 million for a couple years, I might go for it. But looking at the staff that we have right now, I mean, it's iffy. But I don't think this guy would really give us that much of a boost. We've got 4 guys here who I think will more than likely get a spot in the rotation next year, with Medina, who started for me in the stretch last year and for the most part didn't do too bad. 11 starts, 4 wins, 4 ERA. He could start for me again if I needed it to. I would rather he stayed in the bullpen, but I've also got a couple guys in Wildbarker who, if he would develop that changeup a little more, might have a chance at being a starter. But another guy, if he's not going to be injured too long, and he'll be back early in the season. But I still think there's an outside chance that Espinal can start, maybe a fifth starter. He doesn't have great stamina, but if he gives you 5-6 innings in that 5th spot, that's probably pretty good. He's going to be in the mix for probably emergency starting, if nothing else. But I don't want to, as always is the case, I don't want to go 20 plus million or 15 plus million for a mid-rotation or lower starting pitcher. So it's very disappointing, again, to look at that. And I'm having a hard time, too, developing pitchers. I don't think I have anyone in my system right now until you get down to low A. I've got a potential 3-star here, and he's got to develop a whole lot. His control's off. His third pitch is not solid yet. And then I have Dan Van Natter, who was a first-round pick for me. He's got a lot of development to go. Looked good in his first season for the most part. I think I might have a chance at this guy long-term, but I'm not looking at much from him above a mid-rotation. So it's looking pretty iffy. I'm going to move him up, though, while we're looking at him to low A and see if I can put him on a little bit of a fast track. So pitching, I'm probably going to have to do what I usually do. I'm going to probably pick up a good, strong reliever or two. Compton, I would like to see him perform better. He had a terrible year. Two years in a row he's been really bad. So I need some improvement there in the bullpen, maybe one guy, and go with Austin once more as a closer and hope he can turn around. He had 22 saves last year. Not that great. But I think I really need to start focusing on offense this offseason, because I've just got too many position players I need to fill, and I don't have a whole lot coming up in the minors, although I'm hoping that Amari Andres might have a chance at making the starting lineup next year. I'm going to play him in spring training and see how he takes off, but I'm probably going to put him at center over Vargas, who has slipped a whole lot defensively. I'll probably move him to left, and then maybe move Kevin Cox to right or Eddie Tipton. One of those two guys, either move him to right or trade him away. So outfield, I'm okay. I like Perez at short. He's signed for a couple more years. He's a great defender. I'm going to keep him there. But I have some holes to fill at first, second, third, potentially, and catcher. And primarily catcher. So that's the first thing I'm going to look at here in free agency. He's Kwarteng, who I drafted, is got some upside offensively, okay defensively. he's not going to be a defensive sub, but he's certainly not ready to start. And definitely need an upgrade there. So let's see what's available for catching. And I think the last time I looked, it was several 3 stars, 2.5 stars. First one on the list, the only 3-star is Baldo, who almost 34 years old. He's won a few Gold Gloves at catcher. He's got some good defensive ability. Offensively, not a bad line, 270 average, 15 home runs, 2.5 wins above replacement. But he's not a $16 million catcher. So don't like that one. Now, Ruiz is 35, but he's fragile as well. He has good defense and better, in some ways, better offense than Baldo, and has had a better offensive career so far than Baldo. But I worry about his injury history, although it looks like he hasn't been injured all that much above, a few weeks, few days here and there. And being in this challenge mode that I'm in, I can't see if I can't open the editor and see what his actual ratings are for injury proneness. So it would be a gamble. And then a few more guys here. Chris Betts, he's up there in age too, and he's won $13 million. He's had a lot of home runs over his career. And then Josh Gallman. Not too bad offensively. Defensively, that would be a gamble. $4.4 million. Yeah, I'm just not liking that one either. Juan Ventura, 2 defensive rating. There's Francisco Mejia, who was my catcher last year, but for all those all-star appearances and awards he's winning a lot of money. $15 million. And gosh, not much to pick from. Very slim pickings. Let me look and see if there's any catchers on the trading block. Nope. Now, I have a couple guys here I wouldn't be opposed to trading, like Dusty Stern, who has some good individual ratings. Let me see what I can get just from shopping him around. Mostly 2-star stuff. And not seeing many catchers, although Mike Martina from the Yankees, pretty good bullpen prospect there. But no catchers. Let me see what Tipton would rate. Tipton has a little bit better ratings for my scout, but he hasn't really done much so far when I've called him up. And some relievers there that don't look too bad, but that's it. Now, offensively, if there's anyone here I can trade, I wonder if I could trade, because if I'm gonna upgrade at first anyway, let me see what I can get for Vandenhoeven, who's been a starter for 3-4 years now. There might be some guys here interested in him. Again, a lot of relievers. few 3-star relievers, but some pretty big salaries in there too. So nothing there that really looks out. Here's a young catcher, good defensive player, but I don't think he's ready to start by any means. And I need a starting catcher. So let me go back and look at what we have here at catcher. So it may be that I'm going to have to either go with Ruiz or, and he's pretty good from both lefty and righty. If I can get him for 1 year, let me see what I could offer him. He would go for a 1-year salary. Let me see if I can get that cheaper even. What about $375? That's a decent offer. So he'll at least talk to me on that. So that's the catcher. Let me see what else is available out here offensively. And I think the last time I scanned this, I was thinking about upgrading at second. I have a guy in Marmolejo who I'm paying $4+ million. His individual ratings aren't that bad. His season last year honestly wasn't that bad. 281 average, good speed, 26 steals, only caught 4 times. He's got a vesting option next year. He's got to get 450 plate appearances. But if I'm not mistaken, I think the last time I looked at free agency, there was some second baseman. Yeah, there was a few second base prospects here that look really good. Primarily, this international free agent, Ma, is 28 years old. Good speed. He can play several positions. He's actually defensively not rated as highly at second as he is, say, in short, left, or right. He has good personality ratings. My scout has him at 4.5 stars. OSA has him at 4. I've also got J.J. Lohman, who could play first, second, third, several positions that he could play. He would be an upgrade for sure over say, Vandenhoeven at first. And he'd be a big upgrade. And then Sean Barge is out there. He did not have a terrible year, but he's kind of fallen into an injury proneness right now. And even though he's a good defender and good speed, I really don't think I should gamble on him again. But Ma, I'm really willing to gamble on. I'm going to go ahead and offer him a contract. Oh, I've already offered him. That's right. I took a look at him before the episode, and I went ahead and offered him a 6-year, $82.5 million contract, which he's still thinking about. And if I look at like the offers I have out there, it's pending so far. So he hasn't given me any indication either way. But while we're looking at that, let's see if I can also see what's out there at third base. Ma could play third base if it came to that, but he's just not as good defensively. But I see this Lohman again, and I wonder what he would go for if I could get. Let me see if I could give him a 4-year contract at 18 million, just to start, just to see where he is. And I'll give him a player option in that 4th year, and let's see what he thinks about it. He says we're close on the money. He wants a 6-year with a player option. Yeah. He's in a good mood. That's not too far off the salary that I offered him, and I do have some money here to play with. So I'm going to go with that too, and then I'm going to see how that plays out, because if I'm able to get those two guys, I will be trading Vandenhoeven and possibly Tennessee away. I could even move. No, he's not really good at third. I might could come up with something here at third or second, move them around a bit if I'm able to sign those two players. So I'm gonna go ahead let's go ahead another week and see if anything comes up. I gotta put these guys off. Still haven't heard from them. Let's see a week ahead and see if either one favors those offers. Yep. So he is still, I guess, thinking it over, but he's impressed with the offer, and we signed J.J. Lohman. And fan reaction went up significantly. So now I've got Lohman here, who I can play either at third or first. So that's going to mean that I've got a couple guys that I can move around. Let me see where my budget is now. Not too great. Not too great. But the thing about like Tennessee, he's still in arbitration years. And I've already tried to trade Vandenhoeven, but let me try it again. Let me see if I can get maybe a strong reliever even, so that I don't have to go through and find somebody in free agency. Now this guy, he's listed as a starter. He wants to be in the starting rotation, but if I put him, I can't set him to starter. He's 30, almost 31. He's still going to be, I think, mostly a reliever. Looked pretty good last year, but he hasn't been all that great overall. I've got Ben Bowling here, who could develop into a starter. He was a first-round pick. My scout says he's going to have trouble with opposite-handed pitchers or batters. Pedraza for the Cubs, don't like his control. Now, this is a fairly high-rated pitcher, but man, he had a terrible year last year. 6.30 ERA. And Benson, fragile. So, not much out there if I'm just offering him one-on-one. So what I may now do, and I'll probably do this offline, so I'm not spending so much time clicking around, but I think what I'll try to do now, because I really think that if I get those two players, now with Lohman, I could play him at either first or third. And I wonder if I put him at set his position first. I mean, it doesn't really change anything in terms of his overall ratings. I feel like if I put him to third, then I can get rid of Tennessee, but I might be able to work up some kind of combo deal between several players here, say Vandenhoeven and Tennessee, for a better reliever, or who knows, even a starting pitcher. So that would be something to look forward to. But it's going to really depend on if I pick up the other guy that I've got that money out there for. And if I do, then I'm going to have to start looking at unloading some salary. And so for 2034, most of my salaries are right here. Vargas above. Perez, don't really want to lose him. Camacho is just, he's done. He's been injured too much, and I couldn't get anything for him. Austin potentially. Montalvo potentially. McSparran. A few guys I can move around if I have to, but it's going to be iffy. So I'm going to go ahead, sim ahead through the off season here, and I want to see what happens with the two guys that I've got offers out for, and I'm going to start moving around, try to get some trades going. And it's pretty big money I'm investing in those two players, Lohman and Mob, but I think it'll make it a much better team already with those guys, certainly offensively. But as always, thanks for watching. I'm going to be out of town for the next week, so it's I might be able to squeeze another Reds playthrough in here, but it's probably going to be a while before I get back. So the next episode, we will more than likely be starting either spring training or getting ready to start the season. But I usually go through spring training on these, so that should be where we stop next episode. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.